Welcome to the Mixed Race Belonging podcast, where we explore the intersection of mixed identity and belonging through the lens of somatics and personal and collective liberation to help you heal your belonging wounds and reconnect with your innate wholeness through relationships, new experiences, and activism. I'm your host, Raina Legrand, an embodiment coach for mixed race people with a background as a trauma therapist, yoga teacher, and health educator. The tools and insights I share with you here are the approach that has not only helped me heal my belonging wound, but also helped me help my mixed race clients do the same. We all need something good to belong to right now. Relationships and spaces where we feel safe, held, seen, heard, and dignified. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with today's show. Hello. Welcome back to the show. I am recording this episode at the start of a really, really hot week here in Michigan, and I am just trying to gear up for how I'm going to spend my time. I will definitely be doing a lot of swimming, both in the public pool and at one of my favorite lakes nearby. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of inside time, and I'll probably be doing a lot of reading. If you've been listening along, you know that I've been doing this new segment called Reading Rainbow. Do 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 do. And I just finished a really great book last night. There were no mixed race themes, but that's okay. Sometimes I have to read about non-mixed people. I'll give them some time. So I picked up this book from the library. I judged a book on its cover, and the librarian told me that that was okay to do with books. The book is called Blessed Water by Margot, and I am not going to say her last name correctly. Douahy, Douaihy. And this book was such a delightful read. It was a murder mystery. And one of the primary investigators is this chain smoking, cursing, queer nun. So I didn't know it when I picked up the book, but this was actually the second in a series. And I was able to read it, each book I think kind of stands alone. But so I'm excited to go and get the first book. And then also it looks like there's a third book that's come out. It was just like a nice read, but like also with some depth, some like feminist, like kind of uh, elements in there. And so I recommend. As always, I want to know what y'all are reading, novels, books about multiracial identity, and also what you're watching. I've been deep into Love Island and I am Team Trinity all the way. I love Trinity and Bryce. I know people have mixed opinions on Bryce, but I freaking love them. And so feel free to DM me on Instagram and give me all your suggestions because I'm going to need them this week. But without any further ado, let's get into the meat of today's episode. Sorry to all my vegans out there, the tofu of this episode. Okay, so this is something I feel like I've had some conversations with folks about on Instagram recently, and that is that if you're primarily measuring your sense of belonging and fitting in based on whether your friends completely understand you, agree with you, or meet your need all the time, you might be missing out on meaningful relationships. I think this is really common for us to struggle with as mixed people because we always have to be on guard around if other people get us. I was talking with a collective member recently who was sharing about an experience she had recently, and she had this thought come up for her like, oh no, am I going to have to dump this friend too? And here's the thing, I don't want you to stay in any situation where your reality is questioned. I don't want you to waste any time convincing other people that mixed people experience racism. And I don't want you to bypass your very real sadness, grief, and rage about all the places that you've been made to feel like you weren't enough. But what I know is that I used to struggle with relationships because I was so fixated on detecting rejection that it would completely obscure my perception of the good relationships in my life. When people didn't understand something about me or they weren't available when I needed them, I immediately felt like I couldn't trust them. When I started to learn about trauma as a baby therapist, I started to understand that this sensitivity was part of my body's survival system. And it was shaped by multiple very real incidences of being mischaracterized and abandoned, right? This is a trauma that comes from somewhere. But it was holding me back, right, from feeling connected and secure in my relationships. And I was in therapy because I was struggling with dating, with friendships, with family relationships. And it wasn't until I learned about somatics, somatic therapy, politicized somatic practice, that I was able to move past intellectually understanding these things about myself and finally break through and feel more secure in myself and my relationships. And when I finally did that, instead of shutting down because I felt unseen or abandoned, I learned how to comfort and witness myself. To be that witness that I needed in those moments, that like, "Hey Raina, I see you. I see that you're feeling this way. I know that this person just said this or did this. We're going to get through this moment, whatever ends up happening." And instead of arguing, I learned how to be curious about my friends' perspectives and share how their actions or their words had landed for me and asked for what I needed. And this kind of vulnerability helped me experience deeper connections with people than I had ever had before because I finally wasn't so threatened by very normal parts of relationships like miscommunications and conflict. Of course, there are still times when I decide, whoop, that person's not for me. Don't belong there, don't want to belong there. But learning somatics, using somatic practice helped me discern so that when there's a relationship where maybe it's safe enough for me to stay in that conversation, stay in that relationship, and just kind of continue a conversation with them, then yeah, I've developed some relationships that are even deeper because we've made it through some of those hard times. So let's have a little story time. This is like, on Reading Rainbow when he used to like read you a book. This is like that. But it's a real life story about me. So I have this dear, dear friend who lives in Chicago, but every time they're in town, it's just like we kind of hit the ground running. Like we have the deepest conversations. There's no small talk. And we were on a walk and they were telling me about dating someone who was mixed. My friend is Black. Um, and my friend, the person they were dating was mixed Black, one Black grandparent, three white grandparents. And my friend was really picking up on that this person they were dating had this deep, deep yearning to claim Blackness and be in Black spaces. But because they were light skinned and generally white assume, my friend felt really uncomfortable. And they asked me, at what point, at what percentage or like blood quantum are you Black enough to actually claim Blackness? And they also said that it feels like them claiming their Blackness discounts my own reality as a Black person who's clearly read as Black and experiences the world as a Black person. Now, in the past, my sensitivity would have made it so that I felt immediately defensive in this conversation. But because of my practice with somatics, I was able to ground myself, to feel my feet on the ground, to feel my back, to take a beat and remember that I felt safe with this person, that I knew this person loved me, and actually how cool that they felt comfortable bringing up this question to me because, yeah, they felt safe enough with me. And I know some of you might be hearing this and thinking, what the fuck, your friend? Like, how do they not know? Right? Doing this work, I also know that we are all shaped by, affected by, surviving racism and colonialism. And my friend wasn't what my friend's question didn't say to me, I'm a bad person who thinks this thing. It said, I'm a person who lives in the same context that you do, and my thoughts, have been shaped by that context. But again, right, I feel comfortable enough to reveal this thought to you and be in this conversation with you because I genuinely want to understand. So I offered my friend some perspective on this about the mixed experience, the just like fucked upness of like racial purity, and just this reality that things are complex. And as I shared with them, that actually opened them up to deconstructing their worldview of race and identity. They ended up sharing a bit about their own experience of feeling protective of their Blackness because they've had times when they have felt like they weren't Black enough in the right ways. And this reminds me too of the interview I did with Teresa Stovall recently, where we talked about how Black identity is the most like surveilled and policed identity, and that there can be some gatekeeping around Blackness and like where that comes from. I saw a TikTok once that was like, actually, like having your Blackness questioned is the most Black experience you can have. But, anyways, this conversation allowed my friend to soften and reveal some of their own insecurities, and it brought us even closer. It illuminated something that I have come to understand around this work around race and trauma, which is that usually people criticize and reject as a way to protect their own sense of belonging, which can be quite fragile in a world where identity and belonging is so conditional and fraught. And again, obviously, this is a friend of mine who I feel safe with, but I just want to like toot my own horn because I think the way I handled this conversation and the way I felt after it, I actually didn't think about it for months until I was kind of just like thinking of some stories that I wanted to share with you all. It speaks to all the work that I've done around healing my racial trauma and healing my relationship with my own body and being. This messiness around race and identity and belonging is part of being human in this moment in life. And this kind of messiness also isn't necessarily a red flag that means somebody is unsafe to be in relationship with. I want to tell you a little bit about what specifically helped me to do that work of grounding myself and pausing in the moment. And that is this somatic framework called the relational movement cycle, which you can think of as the somatics of belonging. And if you're a psychology nerd, somatics nerd, you can think of it as like the somatics of attachment theory. And this is the primary somatic framework that I teach in the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum, which we are starting on July 12th inside the Mixed Race Belonging Collective. This framework is perfect for the times when you feel unseen or abandoned, whether emotionally or physically. And using this framework, I'm going to teach you different practices and help you develop your own customized plan so that you can center yourself, interrupt racing thoughts, so that you don't shut down or pop off at the risk of losing a perfectly good connection with someone. I think of this framework as reestablishing our body's blueprint for belonging, of feeling safe in relationship. This is also the exact same method that my client Jazz used to feel more secure in her relationship. She would have these moments with her partner where she would notice, oh, my partner's kind of emotionally distant. And she would panic and just feel like so helpless and then feel frustrated that her partner wasn't like attuned to her needs and wasn't kind of as overly giving as she was herself. And after the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum, Jazz actually felt like she had more agency to handle those moments, both externally, like how she wanted to re engage her partner, but also internally, how she dealt with herself and her feelings and the triggers that would come up. Right? All of this to say is not every moment of misunderstanding or emotional distance is a red flag. With somatics, and the relational movement cycle that I teach inside of Belonging Building Blocks, you can actually use those moments to feel closer to the people in your life. We're starting a deep dive into this framework on July 12th. We're kicking it off with the Belonging Blueprint workshop, and then the next 5 months will contain more workshops where we'll go deeper and deeper into this framework. There are going to be so many times when you do just need to keep your distance from someone. And I'm also there for you inside the Mixed Race Belonging Collective for those moments. But I also really just don't want you to miss out on good relationships and the opportunity to develop real intimacy with your friends, your romantic partner, your family members. So sign up for the Mixed Race Belonging Collective. We start this curriculum July 12th, the Belonging Building Blocks curriculum. But even if you sign up today, you get immediate access to the Inside Out resource library, which has audio and video somatic practices. You're able to book a one on one call with me. You're able to start mingling with the other folks inside of our community. And I have to brag, they are all truly great humans. And you can also watch all of the replays from the embodiment series that we just finished. The link is in the show notes for you to sign up, and I can't wait to see you inside. Hit me up if you have any questions at Mixed Race Belonging on Instagram, Raina at mixedracebelonging.com via email.